Hello everyone and welcome to On Purpose Astrology. Today's video is about the Aries Equinox. The Aries Equinox is when the sun moves to 0 degrees of Aries. Aries is of course the first sign of the zodiac. It's also at 0 degrees, the first degree of the 360-degree zodiac, which is why the Aries equinox is seen as the astrological new year. So the chart which we shall look at is very much a chart for the year ahead, the year to come. And then when we have the subsequent solstices and equinoxes, those subsequent charts add nuance to the Aries equinox chart. So for example, the Aries equinox chart, March, it's the spring equinox in the northern hemisphere, the autumn equinox in the southern hemisphere. Then when we have 0 degrees of Cancer, which is the solstice, the first solstice of the year, then we have nuances in that chart, and we'll look at that chart as we go along through the year. Again, then we have the Libra equinox in September, and then we have the Capricorn solstice in December. So these 4 charts, you'll notice that these are the charts for the 0 degrees of the cardinal signs. But there's a case for saying that this Aries equinox is the most important one because it's 0 point of Aries, the start of the astrological new year. And if you've seen my video about the power degrees in the zodiac, I talk a lot about how important that 0 degrees of Aries is, not just because it's the first degree, but because it's the degree of where things start to emerge, new beginnings. It's known as the creation point, where new things start to happen, new beginnings start to happen. Also, it's where things become known, things become seen, things become public, things that have remained private or secret become public, become into the public arena and become known. So let's have a little look at the chart. Well, we'll have more than a little look at the chart for the Aries equinox here. This chart's set for London. So if you set the chart for your location, the house system will be different. Or if you put this chart around your birth chart, you know that it'll fall in different houses, probably because location, any astrological chart is about place. It's not just about time. So we can kind of, if we were looking at how this is going to affect the UK and London being the political centre of the UK, then we could look at the houses in this chart to sort of come to some predictions about what's going to happen in the UK. But I'm not going to go into that detail because people are going to be watching this video from all over the world. So I'm going to look at the aspects, look at all of the relationships between all the planets in this chart. So the first thing you notice, if you look into house 11 there, you can see, again, we won't talk about what the house 11 means because it might not be relevant to you where you are. But if you look there at the 11th house, you'll see right in the middle of it, 0 degrees of Aries, the sun at 0 degrees of Aries. And either side of it, you'll see planets in Pisces, and then you'll see other planets in Aries there. I've done a video, as I've already mentioned, I think I've done a video about the power degrees of the zodiac, the power degrees of the zodiac, that 29th degree, which is the last degree of any sign, but particularly the 29th degree of Pisces, which is the very last degree of the very last sign of the zodiac, and then the 0 degrees as well. So we can you can go back and have a look at that. But to kind of summarize, when we have something at 29 degrees, and Saturn will be there soon, but Neptune is there now, an outer planet that spends a long time in a sign, when it moves, when it gets that 29 degrees and it's at the end of its sign and it's ready to go forward, it's a very intense period. There's a sense of needing to move on, but there's a sense of perhaps a crisis that comes up that needs to be solved, that feels urgent, that there's a sense of needing to find some completion in some area in the world or in our life. And we can kind of see that sense of, we need the sense of completion, trying and crisis and completion trying to come forward when we watch the news. When we watch the news agenda at the moment, we can see there is work to be done there's work that's being done to try and end conflicts, for example, a couple of big conflicts that are going on in the world. We might agree or disagree with how those efforts are being made, but it's undoubtable that these are being made. We shall see. It feels really urgent at the moment. We shall see how things progress as we watch the news agenda. So that 29 degrees. So the sun has moved from 29 degrees of Pisces to 0 degrees of Aries, 20th of March, 9:01 a.m. in London. Again, it'll be a different time depending, you can subtract or add hours to find the time for your location. Timeanddate.com will do that for you very quickly and easily. So when things move to 0 degree of Aries, it's about a new start, it's about a new beginning. There is a sense with Pisces, one of the shadow aspects, the more negative side of Pisces, or it can be one of the negative side, although there's good and bad in everything, isn't there? There's a balance to be found. One of the things with Pisces, often Pisces as a sign and the Pisces energy, is that sense of, particularly with Neptune at 29 in Pisces, of being tired, kind of giving up. Oh, what's the point? Let's just wait to be rescued. There are times, of course, when rescue is appropriate, of course. Pisces is about the people that are vulnerable, that necessarily can't help themselves. It's that sense of wanting to be rescued. So that can be a good thing or a bad thing. There's nothing good or bad in astrology, really, or generally. It's the way we look at it and what the circumstances are. It's never black or white. So you've got that energy there, that Pisces energy there. We've had Saturn in Pisces for more than a couple of years. It'll soon be going into Aries as well. This year, Neptune will be going into Aries as well. Very different energy, a whole new cycle for Saturn and for Neptune individually, but also next year, next February, Saturn and Neptune will be at 0 degrees Aries in an exact conjunction. This is massive. This is major. This is really, really, really important. So we can start to see now during this year up to the next equinox, so from March 2025 to March 2026, we can start to see some of the themes of this new Saturn Neptune cycle that starts at 0 degree Aries. It's very, very rare for it to start at 0 degree Aries or in Aries. It's incredibly rare point, because a conjunction can be any of the 360 degrees. Okay. So it's worth watching and following this chart, this equinox chart, this Aries ingress of the sun. And if you have software or you can use astro.com where you can do extended chart selection, you can put, throughout the year, you can put the transits on the outside of this chart here, so you can see how things might be coming up. But let's look directly at this chart now for a little bit. So we have Aries, the energy I've already talked about, Pisces, and the idea of rescue, but also the idea of the savior as well, wanting to be the savior for something else, for somebody else, for some other collective, for some other group. When you move into Aries, Aries is about going it alone, going solo. There's a sense of wanting to be number one. There's a sense of wanting to be that hero, potentially, that hero that goes in and rescues, or to rescue yourself. Up until January this year, we had the North Node in Aries. Now it was in Aries for about 18 months, and in January it went back into Pisces. So we had that 18 months. If you think back before last year and half of the year before that, we had the North Node in Aries, which was asking us to step into our own sovereignty, to step into our own power, to step into our own courage. Now, courage is a really strong and important theme for Aries. So it's about stepping into our courage. It's about new beginnings. Remember, the end of the zodiac, this late degrees of Pisces that you can see represented here, is about that urgency, about wanting things to change, needing things to change and to get things done, but perhaps feeling compassion, but feeling also perhaps a little bit delusion, perhaps even a little bit defeated. So that Aries ingress of the sun is going to give us energy. The sun always brings energy. The sun in our solar system is the source of our energy, our light, our heat, our warmth, our power, our vitality. So you can see how the energy, there's that shift in energy there. Courage. If you step into courage, if you think about um, there's the work of David R. Hawkins that I use a lot, and I've written about energy and frequency in my new book that's coming out. That'll be coming out hopefully soon. It's been very delayed because I've just been working on it endlessly and I've had lots of other things going on. But I talk a lot in that book about frequency and raising your frequency. So in Aries, for Aries, there's the opportunity, there's the invitation to step into courage. Now, courage, according to David R. Hawkins, is kind of the tipping point between the so-called heavier, denser energies, sort of anger and fear and shame. When you step into courage, you're stepping into a higher vibration. You're stepping towards a higher vibration there. So courage is definitely something that we might need to find. Courage can come, we can step into courage consciously. And we can feel the fear because there's almost a sense that there's no courage without fear. You have to be a little bit fearful of something to be able to step into courage. There's got to be something to step into courage for. So there's an invitation individually and collectively. We'll see here that we also have Venus and Mercury in Aries in this chart as well, both of which are retrograde. So we might have to have a rethink, Mercury, about our values, Venus retrograde, rethink about our values, rethink about how we react and respond. If nothing else, this North Node, when it was in Aries, I've just mentioned, and the South Node was in Libra, it asked us to sort of let go of people pleasing, doing things just to please other people that didn't work for us. Not in a, not the message wasn't to just be completely selfish and do whatever you want. It was to step into your own sovereignty, to step into your own authenticity, to step into your own self-autonomy, your own leadership. So that was the invitation. Again, another invitation that we can bring forward from the transit that we've already had. So we might have to relearn, rethink, redo, revise, re-go over some of those lessons about how we might automatically react and respond. Perhaps we might react and respond with anger, with a little bit of aggression or even passive aggression. So we can rethink that. We can kind of choose and set the intention in our meditations and when we, particularly in challenging circumstances, we can choose to think, I'm going to take a pause, I'm going to take a step back. We can also be our own observer. Aries is fast energy. Aries likes to move fast. So if we can learn to take a step back and see the perspective and be our own observer, and again through meditation, it's a good way to sort of learn to be our own observer, to find that still point, find that point of stillness within ourselves. Remember, we're at the first degree of the zodiac with Aries, so there's that opportunity for a fresh start to find that still point within ourselves if we practice meditation regularly. To ask, literally set the intention, take me to that still point where you can observe your own feelings, emotions, bodily sensations, and thoughts and reactions. So there's an invitation to do that as well. An invitation as well to have a think about our values and our beliefs, to think about our core values. I talk about the importance of core values as well in this upcoming book. The importance of really looking at and understanding what our own core values are in terms of when you want to live more purposefully, living authentically. Aries wants to be authentic. Aries wants to be authentically itself, kind of unfiltered. Venus in Aries asks us to look at those filters. We do need filters. Venus wants harmony at the end of the day. Even in Aries, Venus wants some harmony. So where are we? Where are we doing too much filtering, too much people pleasing, too much trying to be liked, basically? And where are we kind of robbing ourselves of standing in our own authority and in our own sovereignty and being our unique, authentic selves? And this is where, when we can do this and practice this, where we are living much more purposefully, much more authentically. Now, Aries, of course, is ruled by the planet Mars. There's a lot going on with Mars in this chart. You can see in house 2, Mars looks like he's kind of on his own. He's in Cancer here, sign where he's not very comfortable. All the planets have signs where they're most comfortable. Mars is massively comfortable in Aries and in Capricorn, but in Cancer, there's there's a defensiveness about Mars in Cancer. There's a protectiveness, but it's reminding us of the need for security and defense. And we can see that in the world as well, where many countries, particularly in Europe, where I am, you can see many countries are saying, right, we need to up our defenses. We need to spend lots of money on defenses. So we're in a kind of defensive position at the moment in the world collectively. Perhaps we can think about where we are feeling defensive, overly defensive, putting up barriers that we don't need, but also where we do need to feel safe and feel protected. There's no Earth in this chart. You can see there's no Earth in this chart apart from Uranus in Taurus. Uranus in Taurus isn't going to be the easiest energy through which to ground. It's going to feel a little bit scattered. So when there's a lack of an element in a chart, very clearly here, we've got the South Node here in Virgo, of course, as well, another Earth sign. But when we have a lack of an element, there's lots of fire. There's lots of fire going on. There's going to be lots of air coming up as well. We're going into a fire air. So it's really a fire air era, really, when the outer planets move. So what we need to do, I suggest that we might need to get a really strong grounding process in place, really strong grounding process, grounding through getting out in nature, getting out in fresh air, through feeling your feet, your soles on the ground, through eating grounding food, like foods that have come up from the earth, like root vegetables, that kind of thing, any kind of vegetables and fruit, anything that comes from the earth. Or more directly and more energetically, just putting your feet on, whatever you're resting your feet on the ground or your bottom on a chair or on a surface. Feel roots, strong tree roots coming down and linking you all the way down through everything into the center of the earth, where you can ground into the earth and ground into Gaia. When I do this, I do a lot of psychic work, so it's very important for me to ground before and after I do psychic work. And I imagine those roots, they attach themselves to crystals, crystals can be very grounding as well. Crystals at the center of the earth. This is how I imagine and visualize and how I sense and feel it. go out in nature. Interestingly, the energies at the moment can feel very overwhelming, can feel like we don't have much control over things. But I've sensed very recently, and we must bear in mind that the intensity of this Aries ingress is amplified by the fact it falls in the middle of eclipse season. We had one on the 14th of March. You'll see a video about eclipses at the end. I talk about that one specifically, and then another one, 29th of March. I'll be doing a video about that very shortly. But to go back to grounding, I've noticed that the grounding energy, we're invited to ground very strongly at the moment to keep ourselves, to keep things in perspective, and to keep ourselves from being overwhelmed, to keep ourselves from being too scattered, to keep ourselves from, there are so many opportunities. The veil is thin. During this equinox and during obviously the eclipse season, the veil becomes thinner, so we can access other information from outside ourselves, from the collective consciousness, from the planets, from the galaxy, from other dimensions, from God, the universe, whatever you believe in where you think this information that comes through. So this might be coming through for some of you, for many of you watching this. So that makes it even more important to grounding. And there's lots of things happening in Gaia. She's there to support us. I've noticed actually some real interesting developments when I was doing a psychic medium practice class last evening. And when I did my grounding before I started the work, went into that crystal cave, there were earth beings, there were earth elementals there, and they were helping me to ground. They were grabbing these roots, they were connecting them to the crystals. So there's whole other kind of dimension, whole other element coming in. And I'm saying this might sound a little bit woo-woo to some of you, but I'm saying this to say there is support there. There is support there. Gaia, he's there to support you. We are there to support Gaia, of course, but she's there to support you. And another experience I had this week, I am a self-confessed tree hugger, and when I go to my local, I live in London, when I go to my local park, I there's a particular tree that I always, give it a little bit of a hug, give it a little bit touch, give it a little bit of Reiki. As we know, all the trees are all connected by the mycelium. I think that's the right word, mycelium, but sort of the fungal networks. All the trees are connected and they can communicate with others. So you hug one tree, you'll be hugging you'll be sending energy to all the other trees. Bear with me on this. So I always sort of, give some Reiki energy. I'm a Reiki master, so I chose that particular tree. I put my hands on it and I visualize or mark the Reiki symbols to give the tree some energy. And it's just a lovely feeling. This week when I did that, I opened up and then I suddenly felt the tree responding. So again, the earth is responding to us. I suddenly felt the tree responding. I felt my body relax, my jaw reacted, relax, which is where I tend to hold a lot of tension. Also, my shoulders relax. I kind of relaxed into this tree, and I lost all sense of feeling a little bit uh, embarrassed is probably too strong a word, but normally when I'm hugging tree, I'm always aware of other people around me. It's usually pretty quiet when I go to the woodland area. People will go, "Oh, what's she doing?" kind of thing, and that kind of fell away. Like it's cool, it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. But I felt a strong connection, and I felt that the tree, I was relaxing into the tree, and I felt like the tree was I'd been offering the tree healing, and then the tree offered me some healing, and I kind of felt the resonance of the tree, like a voice, not quite a voice, but a deep resonance that the tree was almost talking to me. And then I felt the need to place one of my knees on the tree. I'd been doing a lot of exercise lately, dancing and running, and my right knee was getting a little bit sore, and I felt the urge to, I felt like I was being asked to put my knee against a tree, which I did, and I received some healing. So that's okay, it's a bit woo-woo, but generally if you feel scattered, if you feel overwhelmed, if you feel there's too much going on, things are moving so fast at the moment. Just ground yourself in any way you can. The ways I've said, just sort of just go outside into nature, eat sort of healthy vegetables and fruits that come from the earth. Maybe have a salt bath or something like that. You know, there are lots of things that you can do to ground yourself. Generally, if you're just walking along the pavement, you know, on the way to work or whatever, feel the soles of your feet as they connect with the ground beneath you as you walk. So I digress. That was a bit of a digression, but I thought it was interesting to share these experiences because some of you may be also having unusual, more enhanced experiences at the moment as these energies get very, very intense. Going back to Mars, talked about Mars in Cancer. Mars is also out of bounds. Technically, this means that basically it's gone beyond its declination limits, beyond the normal declination limits. That means symbolically, that means Mars is kind of wants to be free, wants to break out. It's loosened its chains. It's kind of a little bit like, oh, you know, I'm just going to do what I want and there's no one can stop me. Okay, so that's some strong energy to think about, that Mars out of bounds. The other thing about Mars, as I say, Mars on the loose, I think is a good way to put it. Mars is on the loose. The other way to think about this intense Mars in Cancer is that it has been in Cancer for a long time. It went retrograde. It went into Leo and it opposed Pluto in Aquarius. And then it went back and it went back and it went back and it went back and it had a long retrograde period. And it's now going forward, but it's still in what's known as its shadow of its retrograde. So it's still in the shadow of its retrograde, which means it's still going forward over the degrees it went through when it was in retrograde. So there's a lot going on in Mars. What does that mean? Well, that means that we're still in those energies of that retrograde. We're starting to move forward. We can move forward now, but we must move forward thinking about what we learned. So what happened over the last few months, the last 3 or 4 months, for example, in terms of Mars energy? How did we act? How did we react? How did we stick up for ourselves? What were our desires? What were we going for? How were we our own leader? How did we follow our own path? How did we protect ourselves? Did we put ourselves at a disadvantage by not going out there? Mars in Cancer is a very strategic position for Mars. Mars in Aries, for example, is the warrior that's at the front, it's on the front line, whereas Mars in Cancer, it's more the strategy behind things. So what has been your strategy in terms of how you have gone for what you want or have protected or made secure the things that you kind of want to keep? Has something to do, ruled by it's ruled by the moon, of course, Cancer, something to do with clan and family and those things that are important to you and your emotions. And then Mars will have its final opposition to Pluto in April. So again, we need to think about what that might mean for us. Very strong, powerful energy when Mars is opposite Pluto. We've got the powerful, and we've got, it does feel a little bit, um, defensive, but also the opportunity for, I mean, even warlike. I hate to say it, but there's the opportunity to find the balance, to find a strategy, to find peace, really. Cancer doesn't particularly like conflict. It wants to feel safe and secure. You can see here that Pluto is conjunct Pallas. You see Pallas just next to Pluto. It's about a 7-degree orb. Pallas Athena. Pallas Athena, she's the goddess of wisdom. She's also another warlike energy, but she's a warlike energy. She's more, like I just said about Mars in Cancer, it's more about strategy. So what is the strategy? It might be, what is the strategy to end war, to have peace? What is that strategy? The the fact that Pallas and Pluto are in Aries, it's the power of the people. How are the people, how much power have the people collectively, or you individually, how much power do you think you have? The power of the people. We're seeing a time, we're seeing a period during Pluto, and it's got 20 years in Aquarius, where the power of the people will grow in strength. And Pallas Athena can help us with that, and she can help us see the perspective. She'll move on pretty quickly, but we've got this kind of loose conjunction of Pluto and Pallas for about a year here. So that's quite interesting. Things are going to get quite intense. So we can think about strategy, and we can think about using our power wisely. Wisdom, Pallas Athena. So we can see here also that the moon is in Sagittarius. The moon's in Sagittarius. In world astrology, the moon is about the mood of the people, the mood of the collective, the mood of the ordinary people, how they feel and how they're going to react and respond. Often, habitually, how will they respond? In Sagittarius, again, this says something about wisdom, it says something about truth, it says something about perspective and seeing things for what they are. So the power to the people that we see with Pluto in Aquarius generally, and in this coming year with Pallas there, power to the people. The power comes through wisdom and through seeing through the cloak of obscurity, the cloak that's perhaps trying to make us see things in a certain way to suit their own agenda, stepping into our own power, stepping into our own sovereignty, our own authority, our own leadership, being our own leader rather than being led. This Aries energy again. The people can collectively, the mood of the people will be seeing things for how they are. It's about having faith, it's about having self-belief. We can get carried away dogmatically with beliefs, of course, with Sagittarius. But the reason that I say seeing things for what they are is because for this equinox chart, the moon is conjunct Juno here. Juno has a lot to say about seeing things for what they are. Now, if you don't know a lot about Juno, recently I did a video discussion and interview with my friend and colleague Leanne McCafferty, who's a Juno expert. We talk about a lot of the themes of Juno, including this one, about seeing things for what they are, and other themes as well. And she's written a book about Juno that I highly recommend. Check out that video. It's great. It's really good. It's a really good discussion. And I learned a lot by reading her book and talking to her about Juno, because I hadn't used her too much previously. Seeing things for how they are. So that's another way of, excuse the pun, another way of looking at things in this chart here. So there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on in this chart. I'm not one for making predictions, because at the moment, particularly at the moment, there's a lot of uncertainty and things are moving so quickly. Things happen one day and then the next day things have completely changed. So change is probably a theme, of course. Change is probably a theme. I forgot to mention as well Pallas Athena at the top on Pluto. Another thing for Pallas Athena is she's known as an awakener, one of the great awakeners, right? Uranus is also an awakener. So we're going to see, if we're looking spiritually, we're going to see the great awakening, the spiritual awakening that's ongoing is going to get a big boost this year. Uranus, of course, is the modern ruler of Aquarius. So again, this Aquarius stuff, this Aquarius Pluto, this Aquarius Pallas in this chart, again, that speaks to awakening, seeing things as they are, seeing the perspective, seeing the wisdom, trying to step into the observer mode and out of the reactive mode, and stepping into this new year with a sense of courage and a sense of not forgetting, and of not forgetting to ground, a sense of grounding and a sense of courage and moving forward. I think that's it for now. I hope this has been helpful and useful. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe below if you like this video. There'll be more to come on the 29th of March eclipse. That's the next video that I'm going to put forward for you. This has all gone quite woo-woo. And I don't apologize for that. I think when things feel uncertain and difficult in the collective world, remember how much support we have. Remember what I said, whether you literally believe what I said, and I do literally believe what I said about the earth beings helping me to ground and the tree giving me some healing energy. Even if you think, oh, well, that's a bit woo-woo, at least think around the idea that there is support out there. There is support out there in the world, in the energies. Step into that energy of courage. And if you can step into that energy courage, then it's going to be easier to step into the energy of love. Now, this equinox, any equinox or solstice, it puts the emphasis on the sun at the center. At the center of us is our heart space. Sun is the sun, whatever sign it's in your chart, rules your heart. So again, another thing that you can do when things become overwhelming, as well as grounding, is to start feeling the energy of your heart space. You know, your heart is a second brain. Your gut is also a third brain. You have more than one brain. You've got this one, you've got that one, and one down in your gut. And there are neurotransmitters, neurons in all of those areas. They send messages to each other. So if you connect to your heart, if you can ground yourself, you're grounded. And if you can connect to your heart, very easy to do. Very easy to do. Put your hand on your heart, breathe into your heart. As you breathe in to the heart space, and then kind of breathe out and kind of relax into your heart space. You won't be doing that for very long. I'm sure many of you do it already, but you won't be doing that for long before you really start to feel the energy of your heart. And once you feel the energy of your heart, then you start to feel the energy of love, collective love, just romantic love, not just passionate love, but you know, there are, I guess, really only two emotions, and all the other emotions kind of stem from that, which is either love or fear. So you've got the chance here to step into your heart, step into love, whatever's going on, instead of stepping into fear and anger, which is very easy to do if you watch the news or you see the way people are relating to each other at the moment. Sometimes it's very easy to get angry and upset. Just try and step into love. You don't need to, you're not condoning someone's behavior. If it's difficult, you can take yourself away, but it's okay. It's okay to feel love and to send that love out into the world. You know, once you start breathing into your heart space, you can, on each breath, start to feel that energy expanding outwards, and you can send it out to the whole world, to the whole galaxy, to the whole universe, to the multiverses, to anything really. And it really does help, and it does make a difference. So ground and center, and protect as well. Just ask, just set the intention, ask the universe to say, you know, just protect me, just clear any difficult energies away. If it's not mine, take it away, and clear the energies away, and just feel grounded and centered. And that's a good way through. And that's it. That's all I wanted to say. I really, really hope you enjoyed this video. As I say, a bit of astrology, a bit of sort of, you know, bit of me kind of sharing some of my spiritual practices today, some of the things I do regularly. I hope you've enjoyed it. Lots and lots and lots of love as always, and I will see you soon. Cheers. Bye-bye.